This is a highly portable, multi-function work cart. And instead of explaining it now, we're going to build it. And then at the end, we'll come back and we'll show you all of its features. And at the end, I'll have a diagram with all of the basic dimensions for this. Enjoy. Well, these are all the parts. I have 4 pieces, 36 inches long, 2-inch wide, as thin as possible. I don't know what it is. Angle iron. I've got 4 locking wheels, only 2 of which I needed locking, but they came 4 in a package. And they're really nice neoprene wheels, ball bearing swivels, ball bearing hubs on them. Shallow electrical box and plate and cord in order to make an extension for this. The bag, proverbial bags of nuts and bolts. I don't think I have enough. These are, get one over here. They're stainless steel and they have a small trigger at the bottom. And once you move that trigger, you can open them like this. So I'm going to make a small shelf on the side and it closes down. So I have 2 of those. I also have 2 rubber soap dish pads, large sort of industrial ones. And this is what I prefer for keeping nuts and bolts in and keeping them in one place rather than trays and magnetic trays. I also have a can of Rust-Oleum primer and Rust-Oleum paint, both black, for the metal. Any wood I use will have poly on it. So everything's here except the woods. I would say that it's, at this point, just barely under $100. All the wood I have is what I have on hand. So that won't be a problem. I don't have to spend money on that, even though I did at one point. So I'm ready to get started. I have to get started making the wood trays first, and all of this hardware comes second. There are going to be 3 trays. The bottom one about 6 inches, the middle one roughly 5, and the top one a little bit less than 4. And that's what I'm doing now in cutting these strips of plywood. This is some fairly good quality oak plywood. I hate to use it for this, but it's been sitting around quite a while and it saved me from buying another sheet of plywood. Most of the carts that I see online have a length to width ratio of 3:2. So I'm cutting these 22 inches and the length will be roughly 32. So here we've got wood for 3 trays. These are 6 inches tall and 32 by 22 and a half. These are the same dimensions except they are 5 inches tall, and these are about 3.5 inches tall. So bottom, center, and top tray on this cart. Like drawers that I make, I like the bottoms of these to have a recessed slot to slide into. Since I'm using some scrap and leftover 1/2 inch plywood I've had, I'm cutting a 1/2 inch width slot in the bottom with a straight router bit. Now, these trays are being held together with glue and finish nails, which is fine, but keep in mind that the angle iron is going to be in the corners will have bolts, so those will really hold it together and hold it up. So here's the finished box. I've got 2 of them done actually, and a piece of plywood over there. I've got 1 more to do. So this is the 6-inch one. This is the 5-ish, 5.5-inch one, and that one over there will be the 4-inch one. I'm over by the drill press and I have my pieces of angle iron, and what I've done is I have made a template of where I want the holes to be in this angle iron so that they'll all be in the right place. Taping this on to help keep it in about the right spot, but I'm also holding it on while I'm doing it too. And we have drilled holes. So 2 bolts there, 1 there, 2 there on both sides. Now I just need to drill 3 more pieces of angle iron. And a grinding wheel to round off any sharp edges and round the corners off a little bit. And then I have a flat wheel sanding disc that I'm using to take off any of the protective coating that these are storing metal over time. A little naphtha to wipe down each piece of metal, to clean it up, to take off all of the residue from sanding and grinding, and any oil residue that might be on it from storing it, and getting it ready to prime and to paint. After 3 coats of Rust-Oleum primer, black primer, I'll use some black enamel paint. I chose a semi-gloss, so it's not too shiny, but looks a little decorative. I want a an extension. I have a 10-foot cord, and here I'm putting in a shallow box or cutting the hole for it so that I can mount it in the second shelf, the middle one. I picked up this thin rubber mat material, and since the box is 32 inches wide and the mat is 16 inches wide, two pieces should fit pretty nicely inside. I've got lots of options to glue or stabilize this mat on the inside. Contact cement, hot glue. Here I'm decided to use silicone. I know it glues things together and it does a good job. And yet, if I should ever want to pull the mat up to replace it, it should peel off without a ton of difficulty. Of course, nothing ever fits perfectly. The good news is this rubber mat cuts really good with a razor knife. I've got a steel plate that will fit right over these two sockets and look pretty good and be very durable, I think. It was time to drill the holes for the wheels while I could still turn the box upside down. Letting the box sit flush on the bench made it a lot easier mounting the angles on the corners without the wheels being in the way. Assembly of the corner pieces is with 1/4 inch carriage bolts that are laying into the wood. I decided the best way to get the next tray evenly spaced was to cut some equal spacers and then push it down onto them so I could work the bolts. And the same idea with spacers for the top tray. You can see them clamped to the sides. I have the top tray proud about a 1/2 inch. I'm cutting off any excess bolts sticking out and then grinding it flush with the nut. The retractable shelf brackets are mounted with 5/16 bolts and lock nuts. Again, silicone being used to attach the rubber to the tray. I'm framing it with some 1/8 inch thick oak piece that I had, and I'm going to glue it on and then put some pin nails in it. It's to keep a little protective edge on the rubber coating so it doesn't peel up. And the tray is attached to the retractable brackets with 1/2 inch screws underneath. Interestingly, a piece of 10-foot cord and a plug to put on it was about twice the price of just buying an extension cord and cutting one end off. Since this was stranded wire, I crimped and soldered some U-shaped connectors on the end of each wire. I think it'll be more secure that way. I found this new in the box, but very old plug. You can tell it's old because it takes a flathead screwdriver only. And a nice metal plate over it, and the cord hanging down in the bottom tray. And I have a 10-foot extension cord that's built in. Right now, I've got the cart upside down on the bench because I want to be able to work on the underside right here. And what I have is this multi-directional vise that I often have here in the shop. And it clamps on so I can move it. But I need a place to mount it on here. Now, this vise is actually pretty nice, but it's not meant for, like, you know, bending metal or doing heavy banging on. It's meant more for holding stuff. And I probably won't use it much on this cart, but I'd like to have the provision to be able to do it. And this is how I have started. I want to make, from the underneath of the cart, a piece that will slide out and lock into place so I can clamp the vise to it, and then slide in and disappear. So I've got this full piece of 1/2-inch plywood that is going to be screwed directly to the bottom of that. And I have these 2 side pieces which will be solid, and this will be the slider. And I've got 2 steel rules in here so that there'll be a little bit of play and it won't bind. They're spacers right now. Now, to allow for a little play in here after I put the other piece on, I need to have a spacer. What I've got here is a threaded ferrule. It screws into the wood, and then you can screw a bolt into it. This is a small knob, and it's made with a bolt and a bottle cap and hot glue. You put a pad of hot glue into the bottom of it. You put the bolt so it's sticking up nice and straight, let it harden there, and then you fill the rest with hot glue, and it makes a knob. So I have this threaded in here. I'm going to slide this in, and I can see it right in there. What I've done is put a second one here so that I can push it all the way in and then put the knob in and lock it in closed. And again, I'm using some screws with this, but I am relying mainly on the glue to hold it. The screws are really for clamping. This is a nice vise in that it has multiple rotations on it. There we go, that looks a little better. I gotta get a better knob instead of a screw. Well, I was gonna do this finale outside on the lawn because this cart will be used outside, but it's been pouring for 2 days. So, I guess we're stuck here in my messy shop that I just tear apart when I'm doing something. So, I'll need a day to clean it. But anyway, this is the Swiss Army knife of work carts. The reason that I made this is because this is my shop. It's a garrison above the garage. The garage's door is down there. My driveway is up here. And I often, particularly in the summer, because this is Maine, so it's not in the winter, I like to work down in the garage with the garage door open sometime. Or I bring everything up here and I make things outside sometime if I don't need a whole lot of shop tools. I do some welding and so forth. And I really like working outside in the sunshine. But when I do that, I have to bring all of my tools out, and they're mostly laying on the ground. And if I have a sawhorse set up with a plywood on it, I put some on there, but everything's just all over the place. So this cart, which is extremely mobile and has locking wheels, I'll keep down in the garage. I can't keep it up here because one, there's no room, and two, there are 3 stairs going outside. And I'll bring it up and I'll be able to put tools on it. There are 3 trays. Let me show you what we made. If you watch the video, you kind of know. This cart is roughly 33 inches long and 23 inches wide. I have 36-inch angle irons on the side, but the entire cart is 41 inches right here, as far as the height is concerned. The 3 trays, the lower one, middle one, and top one, get progressively smaller. The bottom one is 6 inches high, 5 inches high for the middle one, and 4 1/4 for this top one, with 10 and 11 inches space in between each one. I probably won't need all of that space, but I put 3 trays in and made it this way for structural integrity, and there's no wobble to this at all. It's held together with 1/4 inch carriage bolts. So the round part of the carriage bolts on the inside, a nut on the outside. There was enough pressure that I did not need to put lock screws, and plus the fact that I cut off the ends and then ground it down, so that little flattening on the end tends to lock the nuts in there anyways. On the inside, I had a roll of this decent, I guess, rubber drawer liner that's made for shop tools. It's tough. It's not a drawer liner like you get for kitchen drawers. It cut nice. I glued it on with silicone because it's very forgiving while you're gluing it on, not like contact cement. And then when it dries, it's really a good glue. If I ever need to take the liner up with silicone, with a little effort, you can pull it up and then you can peel it off cleanly. It comes off kind of like gum rubber. So that usually works out pretty good. The whole cart is made with 3/4 inch plywood as far as the sides are concerned, and this lift up table, 1/2 inch for the flooring of each tray. And it didn't need any bracing underneath with that. And I grooved all of the sides of this. It's sort of like when I make drawers for dressers and so forth. And for me, it's a good way, gluing it in with pin nails. It's a good way of holding it, and without having to do any more effort. The cart has a flip-up tray that locks. And even though I'm not planning on putting that much weight on it, these locking mechanisms on the side, these shelf brackets, are rated at 200 pounds. I've used them in my camper, some places in the house and in the shop, and they're really, really nice. They're stainless steel, they work good. I've had none that have failed me, and they're not loose, so when you put them up, they lock into place and they're tight. They're not wobbly at all. This is a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and I framed it to make it look a little bit better and put some poly on it. Let me put this down. On the end, I have a vise that comes from Harbor Freight. They're like $29, I think, with the tariffs. They're probably $45, I don't know. I haven't bought one in a while. And I was going to get one for here, but I have one in the shop that I usually use when I make fishing lures. So I have a small slide out projection here that I can push back in. I can take the vise off, push it back in, and it's not sticking out. And you can look at the video if you haven't already, and you can see how that was made and how it locks in. Okay, I have these rubber trays that I prefer to other types of plastic trays or metal bins because they're very durable. They have a small lip on the edge with these ribs, so I can put nuts and bolts and screws in here and they'll stay put. And then I can just take these and throw them down underneath if they get in the way or if I don't need them. Also, if you look right here, I have an electrical box that I've wired, and I have a 10-foot cord that I'm just going to let straggle down there. The cord is 10 feet, so it gives me the opportunity to use this as an extension cord most of the time because I have plugs on the outside of the garage where the driveway is on the corners. So 10 feet should be no problem. These wheels are 4 inches, and if anybody doesn't know it, because I have a shop that is not huge, so I have everything on wheels, and I always have bigger than 3-inch wheels or bigger. Anything under 3 inches, and a pebble or a wood chip becomes a wheel chock. So 4 inches, better. I couldn't have done 5 or 6 because the whole thing would have been up in the air too much, but they swivel and they lock. And to get them unlocked, you just flip the tab up. That is the tour. If you want to know more about it in more detail, and you haven't watched the video, do it because the entire build is there as far as putting this all together with all the cuts and everything. I could have purchased one of these. They start at about $99. I've seen them as low as $69. But they're small neoprene ones. The larger ones are $169 up to $299. This one is on the little bit larger side. They do make 36-inch ones. This one's 32. The smaller ones are 24 by 16. And most of them are made out of neoprene, some are made out of metal, but they don't have all of this stuff on them. Total cost for this, not including the vise, because I bought that a long time ago and I've had it in the shop. I just repurposed it for this. Is probably close to $150. And that's kind of including the wood. I had the wood on hand, so it didn't cost me that much. It was more like $120. But and the wood prices fluctuate so much these days. And I used some oak plywood because I had it, but just some sanded birch or something would be just fine too. I could have bought one, and it wouldn't have had all of these features, but I could have bought it, and I could have modified it and left it the way it was. But I didn't do that for 2 reasons. One, I wanted something that was more. And then 2, that's no fun. So, if you should ever make one of these, that's great. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Please hit the like button, because when you do that, if someone's looking for a work cart, making a work cart, it kind of floats to the surface. And subscribe if you have a mind to, because I have a lot of videos where I make a lot of stuff. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.